Hello, my name's Jyoti Fernandes. I'm a farmer in the UK. With my family for the last 20 years, I have four daughters and my husband and another family on my farm. We've tried to produce food because we are part of a movement of people that are moving back into agriculture in Europe. And I think this is a strong and growing movement. People who believe really that access to land is the way that the planet can be fed. It's entirely possible through new ways of agriculture and looking back at old systems of agriculture to have land-based human cultures be the foundation of our sustenance as a planet. And that if we can go back to the land, we can really recreate food systems that have meaning in our lives and recreate something that truly works with nature and sustains us well into the future.
Jyoti, could you, I know you have a lot to say, but could you bear with us? We're not all native speakers.
Okay, talk slowly.
Slow down slightly. Thank you.
Yes. So the Landworkers Alliance started with a movement. Is that too slow?
No. It's
too
too
fast.
It's too fast. But we love you. We're not laughing at you. We're laughing at our own ability to not hear you.
So we believe that anyone with access to land can have energy, water, nourishment, shelter, healing, wisdom, and a grave. We really believe that if you have access to land, you can provide the food that we need on this planet that really works with the systems, the intricately beautiful systems on this planet that are there given to us to work in harmony with so that we can provide food for all of us. On our farm, I started farming 20 years ago, mostly because I maybe had an academic background where I studied international politics and the food system, probably like many of you at Wageningen and all around. But when I started to have my children, I realized that the life I wanted for my children was one connected to the land. And I wanted them there beside me while I worked. They were in my pouch while I picked beans. They were plucking tomatoes off the plants, helping me kill animals, birth animals, and every day we would sit down together as a family and eat together. And we know that that food has meaning in their life, and the idea of them being with me while I worked gives them a sense of being full human beings and being part of the wider community, also connected to the land and to agriculture. And I think this is the root of why it's important to go for this kind of food system, a food system connected to the land and to communities, is because that is what gives us meaning as human beings. And the root of human happiness is the fact that we understand that living with nature is living with the circle of life and living with the fact that you are picking something, you are killing it and it dies, but then it goes into our body and it is recycled again. And understanding that working with our communities and our land-based human cultures like this is what gives us meaning as human beings. And we can build a planet built on that sustainability as part of understanding and respecting our Mother Earth. So on our farm, we wanted to create a system where it's mixed. We have animals. I have 4 Jersey cows. I hand milk my cows. I make cheese. I give the whey from my cheese to my pigs. My pigs clear the land, and then I put the manure back onto the land and I plant vegetables. And all of these products, we process them. We have a cooperative with many small-scale farmers in our area. There are 52 different farmers in our cooperative. We share collective facilities for making juice, sausages, cheese. We have all of this equipment, and then we sell them together with marketing initiatives so that we get the full price for our products. It's a direct sales initiative, and we had to think very creatively as people going back to the land, because in the UK and across Europe, it is very difficult. The food system has become dominated by a market economy where food is valued as a commodity. It's not valued for the for the food itself, for the culture of the food, for what it creates in human beings. And so we have to exist in this framework designed by the policymakers that does not fit what food means to us. And we have to become very creative and create these models together of adding value, of creating our own markets and our own supply chains. But actually, it's very, very difficult. And this movement is growing, and we are passionate, and we are knowledgeable, and we believe so strongly that we can produce the food and be the backbone of food security in Europe. But the political context is extremely difficult. And as this movement grows, over the 20 years of doing this, and also working as an organizer to bring more people in who want to try to develop these models for food and agriculture, to grow it from the roots and have land-based food resources, as I meet these people, they come to me every day and they say, you've been doing this for 20 years, your neighbors have been doing this, how can we get into it? And I see that the political context squeezes us out of the picture. It makes it very, very difficult to get in this kind of agriculture. To name 2 examples, we need access to land. Like I mentioned, these are land-based systems. And access to land has become extraordinarily difficult across Europe. One of the primary things fueling the increased price of land, and I'll give you an example in my area. When we bought our land, we paid £1,500 per acre for the land. Now, new people in our area trying to move in, join our cooperative, develop small businesses, have to pay £12,000 to £15,000 per acre. And we have looked at this, and we've studied this, and we've seen there's a direct correlation between the common agricultural policy in Europe and the fact that landowners are paid to own land, and the fact that that price goes up and up and up. So when these people come forward saying, we want to create a business plan so that we can get planning permission to live on our land, the price of the commodities that they get goes down and down and down, because we are part of the global market. We're part of the common market. We enter free trade agreements all the time that drive the prices of our food down. And it doesn't match up. When land goes up and the price we get for food goes down, and it becomes more and more difficult to sell, then how do we get into the market? And so we realized we have to organize to try and change this political context, to bring our voices, the voices of the people who want to be producing our food every day or who are willing to do the work, into the political sphere. Because the policymakers do not understand what it is like to stand there in the mud, milking your cows at 4 o'clock in the morning, and try and get a price that is well below the cost it is for us to be able to produce that. They do not understand what it is like to go to farmers markets 6 days a week to try and get a fair price that's still dominated by the commodity price that's out there. They do not understand that all these things that they try and get us to diversify out of farming to do, and the grants that are available to do all sorts of things to bring in extra income. We don't want to be changing beds and running bed and breakfasts. We want to be farming and producing food for our communities. And so we need to get our voices into the political structure so we can explain what's going on, and we also know, and we know the solutions. Sorry. I get very excited about these things.
So do we.
So in the UK, we realized we had to come together to organize ourselves, to learn how to talk to policymakers, how to help them understand that food and farming is not about market economics, and what are the solutions that we need to be able to make it work. We joined with La Via Campesina, and now I work with the European coordination of Via Campesina, and we work in Brussels, and we talk to policymakers all the time. We want to join up with academics who can help us develop models for a better common agricultural policy. We want to work with activists who can support bringing our message to the world. We want to do all of these things because it's extremely important what we do. La Via Campesina represents at least 200 million farmers across the world. And really, the message that we try and take forward about how important solving the global hunger problem is by giving people access to the resources to provide the food we need as a planet, that message is so important. And half of the population of the planet is dependent on ecosystems for their sustenance. That is a huge voice. And it baffles me how that voice is not heard in the political corridors of power. We have the power as the people producing the food. But in the corridors of power, our voice is very small. And we need to amplify that voice. And we need to make sure that all of us are bringing this message consistently with all the passion we've got inside of us to the people who hold that power so that we can change the system. Because it's entirely possible for everyone on this planet to sit down at a meal and have a beautiful meal cooked by their family with food from the local community every single night. Everyone on this planet can be fed through a sustainable food system led by peasant agriculture. And it's important that we understand there are more of us who believe that this is possible than there are of the people who don't. Capitalism and the global market economy, it's built on paper. It's promises that will evaporate. And when all of that collapses, one day, what will happen is that the global market economy will uproot itself. And when that happens, who will be here? The peasant farmers and the people who understand how to work with the earth will be here to feed people in the future. There are more of us than there are of them. So please join with us to bring that message forward, because what we are fighting for is a challenge that is more important than almost any other thing we can face as humanity. And what we're defending is precious and wonderful, and I know all of you believe in it. It's worth spending those extra days, that extra time being on your emails or going to meetings or talking to politicians or squeezing in, those extra little bits of time beyond your daily life to really fight for this. Because if we want a future for our planet, this is what we need to do. Thank you.